everyone, and welcome into the fantasy football universe. I am Aaron St Denis at FF Mad Scientist. I have been relegated to bottom bitch for today. I am joined by Jeremy Shulman at FF_Rebel and Jesse Moeller at JMoeller05. We are here to do the scouting combine recap for what we have of the offensive positions. Tight end is done. It was done yesterday. We have the majority of the running back stuff is done. I know some of them are still doing the bench and the other crap that seems to trickle in late. I don't have it on because my kid's on the TV in this room. Who's on the field right now? Receivers?
Sam Hartman, right?
No,
Yeah.
I mean, what position? Like the ninth group of receivers? Is that who's on?
Yeah, that's why.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, where do we start, guys? You want to run through? We want to go. We're obviously, I think we said, actually, you want to start with tight end since we know they're all done and they're a relatively quick group to go through. So,
I mean, the guy that jumps out is Devin Culp, but like he literally is just the ultimate, just like high ceiling play as far as athleticism. There's no production profile. He was losing snaps at Washington. Like, I think it's very much just like not someone you're going to have interest in, but he absolutely tore it up yesterday at the combine.
I wrote an instant like recap of this with I think I picked 2 or 3 risers and 2 or 3 fallers. It was the most depressing article I've ever written. My 3 risers were actually the top of 3 on this list, where it's Devin Culp, like you said, crushed he only did like 3 events, but he crushed them. Theo Johnson was my easy winner of the day, despite the fact that, no real production. Same with Culp. Tanner McLaughlin was my 3rd. He actually had decent production, the best out of these 3. And then it was sad because my 3 fallers were Jatavian Sanders, who finished at the bottom of pretty much every test he did, which made me happy because I thought it meant Ben Sinnott was going to be my riser. But Ben Sinnott also sucked in pretty much every one of the tests. So my 3 fallers, I think, were Sanders, Sinnott, and the biggest one of the day was Brevin Spanford. He participated in, I think, every event. He finished last or second last in all of them. He was god-awful.
I'd say Sinnott actually had a really good day outside of his 40. He dominated the vertical and the broad. Like, he won those 2 events out of all the tight ends. So if I'm going for a tight end out of that group, like, Sinnott's a winner for me personally.
See, I had to pick 3 losers. I had to pick 3 losers, and it was a mix. He dominated, like you said, the explosion ones, like the jumping, the vert and the broad. Let's look. It was a mixed bag. See, he was bottom part here for the 40 split, the 10 split. He's where is he? Again, towards the bottom. This is where the vertical, right at the top, broad, right at the top. I don't think he did do the 3 cone. Okay, so the 3 cone wasn't available when I checked last. 20 shuttle was at the top. So he is a mixed bag. Okay. When I last looked, he was low on the 40 and the 10, high on the vert and the broad, and the 3 in the shuttle hadn't updated yet. So after him posting good results here, he's probably not a loser for me. I don't know if he's a huge winner for me. I thought he was good, but I don't know. I was hoping for more. I think it really comes down to like the cutoff. I forget what it was, but I think the cutoff for tight end, for a top 12 tight end over the last 10 years, I'm paraphrasing here, it was something like 4.62, and I think Wiley was the cutoff here, and that's what scared me.
Yeah. Like, for me, for fantasy relevant tight ends, like 4.7 is really the cutoff I'm looking for. Like, if you get under there, like, it's at least playable, and if you're a bigger tight end, like, I could make it work. Like, I think if we're looking at RAS scores, Sinnott at a 9.75, so like, he's really high up there if you take it all into context. So that's why, like, with the whole package, I'm fine with him. But yeah, I get it if you're worried about 40 time and chasing the ceiling, but this tight end class kind of sucks as it is, right? So overall, that's my big issue.
And they kind of suck as it is, but I will say, like, all of the tight ends are kind of mostly lumped into one giant tier, right? Like, I don't think anyone totally separated themselves from anyone else. Obviously, Bowers didn't test yesterday, so we don't have those numbers to compare. I love Sinnott, so that's confirmation bias for me. Everything that he performed. I am not high on JT Sanders, so that's confirmation bias for me. So the tight ends went really well for me last week, but then you had surprises like Tip Riemann coming out of nowhere, just being a huge hulking guy who I haven't even watched him, but I'm sure he can block at his size. He better be able to block, right?
He doesn't believe in birds.
And moving that way. I mean, he's a big winner. Jaheim Bell looked a lot more fluid than even I thought he would look. So, I think these guys have different skill sets, but mostly they're all lumped in together Theo Johnson. He was higher on, everybody's board as a tight end, and he posted a 10 flat RAS score, which is amazing. But even still, he didn't necessarily stand out amongst some of the other top end talents there. So I think it's one giant tier at the moment, but yeah, I love Sanat at the top.
Yeah, you guys remember last year the guy that got a perfect 10 that went undrafted, Zach Kuntz out of Old Dominion? He literally plays for the Jets, and he got like one snap last year. So I think Theo Johnson's a lot closer to that line of player than he is fantasy relevant.
Exactly.
But yeah, like it's Penn State. They have the best workout room in the nation. So like all those guys absolutely ball out. Case in point, Chop Robinson, you see him just destroy it. So I kind of take it with a little context for Theo Johnson personally.
Yeah, I was like I said, I was disappointed because I knew Bowers wasn't going. Sanders was an easy follower for me. Sanat, after seeing all the metrics, like the late ones trickle in that I haven't updated, I think he's more of a just hold that tight end too for me. He didn't move up or down. The three guys, like I said, who did move up, Theo Johnson's maybe into that third tier now of tight ends. I didn't really love McLaughlin. I didn't really love who's the other tight end I'm forgetting here. I just said it. Oh, Culp. I have no real interest in Culp. And then for me, it was more of, like I said, Sanders dropped significantly for me. He's no longer a second-round rookie pick for me. Brevin Spanford, who I thought was in the third tier and maybe worth a shot, he looked terrible. Everything he did, he was bad at. But so we're over on Kent Lee Platt's Math Bomb on Twitter there. If you want, we can look through some of these. He's got them up. We'll start with the tight ends. As you've seen, it's a lot of green here. He did great in everything but 3 cone.
Yeah.
What is it? He's 6'6", 259. I'll scroll up. I know he's got a whole bunch. I just checked them out. Tip Riemann. I feel like I watched this. I was not nearly as impressed with Tip Riemann on the field as the announce crew was, but maybe I was just getting unfairly biased. You ever have that band where everyone thinks they're awesome, so you instinctively hate them? I just got sick of listening to the fucking Tip Riemann spiel. The shit they had going on, that and the jokes about jerking off cows or whatever the hell it was. I'm just like, can we stop with the fucking cow jokes, man? Like, I don't know. I know they were saying they're giving the fantasy guys a hard time for not acting appropriately, but meanwhile, I had to sit there and listen to 4 hours of Rich Eisen, is that his name? I forget his name. I had to listen to his fucking stupid comedy half-ass jokes for 4 hours. I want to put the shit on mute at some point. But anyways, we've digressed. So Tip, we see here, he got a 9.92, a little smaller, 6'4", almost 6'5".
271 though, man.
Yeah, so he's not a little smaller on the weight side. That's a big boy, but
he can move.
Ben Sanat, so he came in size as average. Everything else, you're right, it turned out not too bad here. Yeah, I see. I don't get that. Okay, maybe I guess it was. You're right. I think his cutoff must be 4.7, as you said, because he has his 40 time 4.68. He has that listed as a green, so I guess it's not as bad as I thought. So maybe he's going to be just a stand pat for me, is more of a instead of a faller.
But listen, with Ben Sanat in his tape, he's cutting guys up. He's burning them. He's making moves. He's a red zone threat at the Senior Bowl. He was doing the same thing, the top safeties and a couple corners. Like, listen, I think if he goes to the right situation, he's going to have a big opportunity to produce in year one.
Yeah, and you get comments from him saying he loves to absolutely hit guys and run them over. Like, he looks to punish guys. So that's why I started calling him the Juggernaut, because he's a big boy. He likes to bring the hammer down. Like, that's at least entertaining, and you love to see that from a football player. So I think from real life, he's much more like viable. But yeah, he's definitely dart throw worthy in fantasy for sure.
Moving up, we've got Jared Wiley out of TCU. He had scored higher. I don't know. I didn't think he was anything. Did he stand out to you at all? I barely remember seeing him out there.
No.
6'6", 249. He put up good scores in everything except for the broad and the 3 cone. So he lacks a little bit of explosiveness, which is odd because it's weird where he got great on this score and average on this one. He didn't do the shuttle. I don't know. What did you guys think of Jared Wiley?
I mean, he just kind of just seems fine. Like, I guess would be the best way to phrase it. Like, he did enough to, put his name out there. Had a good day overall. It's just, he's kind of one of those guys lost on the shuffle, I think. Yep. He at least jumped out of the group that we're talking about. Like, he stands out from yesterday. You could put it that way, at least.
Tanner McLaughlin, I liked a lot better than his scorecard here, but He's losing a little bit on size, which I don't know. 6'5", 244 seems decent size for me. I don't know why that would be okay. I put 6'5" as a decent size, but he's very fast. That's what stood out to me. And like I said, of the three out of nowhere guys, he had the best receiving profile or production profile. Jaheim Bell, not great. 6'2" here, 241. So size is an issue, but
always
speed and explosion. Feel free, like I said, I'm going to run through these. If anything jumps out, feel free to jump in.
One thing with Bell is like we knew he's like an athletic freak. He can't control his size, right? Everything else scored really well, and he just looked even more fluid catching passes than I expected. I mean, he was good on tape doing that. Of course, he was coming out of the backfield at times and doing all sorts of crazy things in the formation over there in Florida State. But the guy's really fluid with catching passes. So if he can be, in a system that wants to stretch the field horizontally, right, and use his abilities in the screen game as Florida State did, help him gain that confidence and develop and eventually push downfield, I think he has a chance. But the issue there is always going to be size.
Is it just me, or does he profile more as a, I think we said this in our breakdown, as a fullback? I got fullback vibes from him.
Are there fullbacks?
H-back. He's that in-betweener guy that, I mean, it's similar to Bowers. The size is not too different between these two guys. It's just Bowers is just a better version, and he's like a more developed tight end who could do a lot more things. But the size is always going to be a question mark just because, you're looking at like the Evan Ingram type player, and they have to be a very good wide receiver to exist in the NFL to be fantasy relevant on top of it. So he's going to be pigeonholed, and he needs a coaching staff to trust his talents where they dive into it and make a role for him. So it's very much a TBD depending on where he goes in the draft and who he goes to. But yeah, I could see him going a million different ways based off of this.
Yeah. And the reason we profile him as a fullback is because he played that role in college. And at one point for a month-long stretch, he was the only viable threat in the backfield. And he earned like 80 carries one season, right? So, and punched in the end zone a few times. So he has that in his tool bag. Whether or not an NFL team is going to want to utilize that, though, is another question.
Yeah, it reminds me of a guy that used to play for the Raiders, Marcel Reese. Like, those are the vibes I get coming off of this guy. He played fullback. He was like a wide receiver tight end at Washington. He was really athletic, not the biggest guy in the world. Went and played fullback. He was all like a Pro Bowl, all-pro type player. So he was a good player in the league. It's just really hard for fantasy for that guy to exist and be a difference maker.
Yeah, and I don't know of any outside of the 49ers who do it sparingly, even though they have one of the best fullbacks of all time in Kyle Juszczyk. I don't know of any NFL offense that utilizes a fullback enough for them to be fantasy relevant.
Kyle Juszczyk, that's the only one, and he's not even enough to be fantasy relevant. So keep going here. Cade Stover, that's a disappointing one. We knew size isn't great, wasn't explosive. He was pretty fast though. He looked decent as a pass catcher. He just doesn't really have that next level explosiveness or speed. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, you're playing at Ohio State, right? You're the tight end there, so you're going to get lost in the shuffle. It's really hard to stand out with that wide receiver core they have. So you have to be an exceptional tight end to be like earning targets and earning his way. So yeah, like I think he's just going to be a solid guy in the league. Like he'll get drafted, he'll be fine, but like fantasy wise, I'm just not that interested personally.
Same thing.
All right, Jatavian Sanders, the disappointment of the day, wasn't big. Did none of these tests down here. Didn't do great over here. 4.69 is not a great 40 time. I guess it's just before the cutoff, but I was expecting much faster. Everything I said was his production profile is better. His athleticism profile is better. Well, in the end, the athleticism profile wasn't as far above the rest of the group as we thought it was. So any major takes here for Sanders?
It's unfortunate. Yeah. You were hoping for more, given his size. Like we knew he was going to smaller. We expected him to be more athletic, just because it's a bigger issue at the NFL level. If you're smaller, you have to be more athletic. And we'll get to this when we talk about running backs, to like my personal follower of the day, or pouring out from my boy Bookie. But like if you're small and unathletic, it's just so difficult to be a difference maker in the NFL because you're going to get swallowed up. And guys are bigger, they're faster, they're stronger. So I'm definitely worried for Sanders. Like I might take a flyer on him in the 4th or 5th round, but like I'm overall pretty worried for him.
Yeah. And the thing with him that was always the problem is he's not a really good route runner. He's not a really good blocker. Right. The blocking bit is a bit of an understatement. If you see him in the blocking drill, it's hilarious because his face is like mushed into the pad. And someone tweeted like he looks like he's motorboating the pads here because he's just got a face full of blocking pad. But like, yeah, we knew he wasn't the blocker that he needs to be. at the next level. And he doesn't, he's not a good route runner. He's fast. So, but apparently he's not nearly, fast enough compared to these other guys. He's just lost in the shuffle.
Right. He's still learning the tight end position because he was an athlete coming out. But like it's a work in progress with him. So it's just gonna be time. Like you're gonna need time with him.
But you don't want to be drafting a guy who's going to be taking time in your rookie drafts. That's for sure.
Having come around slightly on Sanat since I got some updated info, I think the third faller I would have been Dallin Holker. He did not look impressive. I mean, he can catch 2 footballs at the same time, but aside from that unique skill, he was kind of small, wasn't very explosive, wasn't very fast. He had good feet and he's agile, but like unless he can catch 2 footballs at once in a game, I don't really see. Like I know everyone's helmet scouting him and comparing him to Trey McBride. I don't think he's Trey McBride. Someone said his floor is Trey McBride. No, it's not.
Hell?
His ceiling times 3 is Trey McBride.
His floor is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Yeah. Quite a floor you have.
Yeah, what's his ceiling? Tony Gonzalez? Then like, no thanks. No thanks.
Yeah, I mean he's a more like developed and advanced route runner. He is older, like coming out, so he is more skilled in that area. Like he can do things for an NFL team. But for fantasy wise, like it's real. Like we talk about this again. If you don't have the athleticism and he lacks it, you can tell. He has that short area quickness, which will work for underneath routes, and he can survive in that. So he can play a role in the NFL, and he could be a guy that you stream every now and then. If you had tight ends on a bye, you need to pick somebody up. Like I see you like starting him randomly, like week 6, 2025, stuff like that, right? Like that type of situation. But overall, it's just tough, man. It's just so hard. Athleticism is so important for this position.
Sounds like a guy I'll be not drafting and adding on waivers week 5, 2025.
Yeah, right.
Trey Knox, another one, did very little testing. That's never a good sign when these relatively obscure prospects opt to not run. That's not a good sign.
Yeah, that's weird because he did some drills. Interesting.
Yeah, just means he knew. But that's not good. So he chose not to run the 40 because he knew he was going to suck. So instead, he took the drills he was good at. He didn't really do good at them.
Yeah.
So this one's not good. He wasn't really on my radar unless you're in a deep league. But I don't know. You guys got anything to say here? I think he's not.
I think we're just good, unfortunately.
Let's keep going. I know he's got more. Oh, he has fullback Jaheim Bell now. So apparently he agreed. He grades out much better as a fullback. Let me say that.
No surprise, right? Because he's bigger. Yeah, that makes sense.
So somebody else, the Seahawks France, agreed that he is a much better fullback. Nice. I think that might be his last tight end, and I think he gets into the running backs here. There we go. Amani Bailey, he was the first one to go. He did not look great. He did not look good. It was not a good day. He was someone I seen as kind of a late round pick. He might still be a late round pick, but he's going to have to. You know what the funny part is? There were a couple of these guys who really disappointed speed wise. They kept comparing them to he's not completely dead. He could still pull a Kyron Williams. Yeah, let's not start relying on the outliers here. I
agree.
He's small, he's slow, he's not explosive. Like if you can't see this, if you're listening to this, his RAS card is completely red, except for the one title. How does this grade out to yellow? Red and red equals yellow?
It's like not as dire red. It's like in between red, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, okay. It's not dire red. It's just red.
But also, like, at what point are we going to stop comparing running backs to Kyron Williams or Cam Akers or whatever and just say it's Sean McVay in the system, right? All of these guys have failed elsewhere. They're doing, they're blowing up. And it takes some level of talent to execute in a system. For sure. Right. I'm not trying to take anything away from those guys, but they're not elite running backs because they have elite production in the NFL. So situation does matter. And, just because these guys score as poorly as Kyron Williams does not mean they're going to end up in a situation like Kyron Williams where he gets to sit for a year, learn the scheme, and then they jettison the backs in front of him. There's injuries, and then he gets the backfield to himself. So situation matters as well.
Well, and Kyron Williams also a much better back coming out. Like he was everybody loved him coming out until the combine. We're like, all right, he's smaller, cool. And then he kind of fell because of the lack of testing. But like we all knew he was a good running back. It's just we were worried about his ceiling. Like we don't know how good of a running back Amani Bailey is. That's the thing. Like it's a much lower floor with him. Like, and it's like you're saying, it's so hard for these guys to like find a role. He might not even get drafted now. So like if you're a UDFA or like round 7, it's almost impossible. Like the odds are eventually stacked against you. And yeah,
to go back to the Kyron point, it's another case where as far as running back goes for fantasy, opportunity matters more than talent. So, I mean, there's no way to discount which one of these guys is going to come out of nowhere, but he is certainly lower on my board after this. Trey Benson, I remember he got off to a great start. That 4.39, I know he didn't win it. It was it the Louisville guy? Was he
Garendo?
Yeah. Was he Louisville or where was he?
Yeah. Yeah, he's like he's a really older back who's been around a while. But yeah, he was at Louisville.
So I had Trey Benson as my RB2 in the class behind Brooks. I know Brooks didn't do anything, but I think Trey Benson is my RB1.
He might
especially considering Brooks isn't going to be ready to go for week 1 off of the injury. And Benson is. I think Benson looked really good. That 4.39 is fast. Like I get he's got decent size. His jumping ability isn't great, but I don't really need my running backs to jump all that much, so I don't care. What did you guys think of Benson? I thought he was a big winner for me so far.
Agree.
He did everything you could ask him for him to do. Like, if you're like, all right, I need you to win the day. Like, you need to go out, give me your best effort. Benson absolutely did that. He nailed every drill. He fit the size. Like, we had question marks about his visions and things like that, but we knew the athleticism was there, and he lived to what we saw on tape. Like, yeah, he's a big winner because he hit every possible check mark you can get for today. So, yeah. It's a big day for him.
And he looked super good catching the football too, which might have been one of the question marks that he wasn't asked to do a ton at Florida State, or at least, as involved in the routes and, at every level, every pass catching drill, he looked really good.
All right. Next up, we have Blake Corum. Didn't do well in size. 4.53. I thought he'd run faster than that. Yeah, this is kind of why Corum's not my one. I know in that group of 6 that we're going to have a shakeup here. So Benson moved up for me. Brooks kind of stayed where he was. I have Estime and Bucky Irving who've moved down to the 5 and 6 slots respectively, which leaves Corum and Braylon Allen in the middle there at 3 and 4, depending on what Allen did. I didn't see. Sorry, it wasn't. I got my players mixed up earlier. I was speaking about Brooks. I meant Allen. I had Allen. Right. Allen's the one who didn't do anything. For some reason I got Allen mixed up with Brooks. But so for me, anyways, Corum was my 3, 4, 5-ish in this class, and he didn't move up any. He's staying somewhere in the middle of tier 1 for me.
Yeah. It's just like I didn't realize he was 5'7". I knew he was small, but that's really small at his size. So the fact he's even smaller than we kind of anticipated, and he didn't run great. Like, I know he was listed to have a 4.39, was expected 40, and he ran a 4.44 coming into Michigan. So the fact he's still not fully back to who he was pre-injury, like that kind of worries me a little bit, just the home run speed. But like, he's still a good back. It's more or less it's just someone's going to draft him and where they're going to draft him. So like, he falls to day 3, then it's kind of like, it's a little harder for him. And I'm not sure he locked in day 2 capital, to tell the truth.
Yeah. And like we were talking about before with outliers, right? We're not relying on these running backs to become outliers. And if you lack the size and then subsequently lack the draft capital, it's likely that you're going to lack the volume to matter. In fantasy, he'll have a role, like you said, maybe he'll develop into something that matters. We'll see.
Well, and this is the problem. I remember in the original sneak peek we did for him, someone criticized us and said, how do you not know what his role is going to be? It's the same as his role is in Michigan. That's the problem. The role he had at Michigan, he doesn't profile to be able to succeed at that in the NFL, and that's what worries me. He's not going to be like, look, he's a red for size. He's not big enough to be a goal line back in the NFL. It's just not going to happen. So that's what worried me. That's why I am not the high guy here on Blake Corum, even though I'm a Michigan guy.
Yeah. And like you were just saying, right? Like, it's very unlikely, but we're playing a probability game here. Right. And so we're saying it's not impossible, right? He could find a Kyron Williams role and go nuclear. That's in the range of outcomes. It's just not likely. And we're playing a probability game here. So let's, take the guy with the biggest probability to hit, and Corum isn't one of them.
Well, yeah, he's similar in size to J.K. Dobbins, like coming out, except J.K. Dobbins is a true freak athlete where like the size was not as worrisome. Like I think he's 5'9", he's like 209 coming out, so it's really close. But like Dobbins is a freak athlete, and like he didn't have the issues that we had with Corum coming out. So yeah, like I'm with you guys.
Next, we have Isaiah Davis, who was pretty big. Other than that, he just kind of graded out as average all around. I don't know. He didn't really move up for me. He's kind of a late round dart throw. I don't even know where I have him in my rankings. He's probably a 4th round pick. I know in our 3 rounders, he doesn't normally get picked. I'm be interested. I think I have it set for 4. When we're done the show, actually, we're going to be live doing that one. Well, you guys are on the show. I'll be drafting. We have it set for 4 rounds. I'm interested to see maybe he squeaks his way into the 4th round, but I don't really think there's too much upside here. What do you guys think of Davis?
Yeah, I think he did fine today. Like he's a bigger back, like coming in. You didn't expect him to absolutely blow up or anything like that. So he kind of just stayed where he was. The athleticism doesn't really change much for you. He just kind of he's hovering in that late dart throw range.
Yep.
Yeah. Raymond Davis. This is Ray Davis. Yes, it is. Okay.
Yep.
Ray Davis was a faller for me. He did not look good. He was small, slower than expected. I mean, I wouldn't call him slow. 4.53 is okay. Yeah. It's just he's small. And for a guy his size, you expect better than a 4.53. He's do I have to add someone? I do. Yeah, one sec, SC. I'm going to get you in here in 1 sec. You guys keep talking about Ray Davis.
Yeah, he was just okay. I mean, he did everything fairly well. The problem is there's nothing really that's standing out there. He's a capable back. I think he'll get drafted on day 3. But I don't think he's going to do much more than play a backup role in the NFL.
Yeah, I think that's the most likely situation for him.
Well, you're a Ray Davis guy, weren't you, SC? What did you think about his performance?
I mean, what up? Sorry, guys, I'm a little late, but no, I mean, he was great. I didn't expect him to go out there and run a 4.4 So I mean, he was just right on the line of what I saw. I still think he's gonna be again day 3. If anything, the combine was to push him up into day 2. But even then, we were talking about running backs. I mean, we've talked about it throughout the whole when we started the shows. Like this running back class, we may see 3, maybe 4 go in the day 2 picks, So day 3, round 4, I think round 5 is solid for him, but still a running back I'll buy because I love his size there. So I think he's someone that will get a shot. I mean, none of these guys I think are necessarily the full RB1 like for a team, but they're definitely gonna go in there and do some work. So I still like Davis.
I was hoping for better. I know you said he's not going to run a 4.3, but at his size, I was hoping he'd run sub 4.5 at least.
Yeah. It is what it is. You kind of know that you kind of knew this about a certain amount of these players coming in. So like if they dramatically exceed or underwhelm, then it's a big difference maker. But if it's kind of like what we expected them to do, it's kind of like you just chalk it up because I don't want to double count. It's like, all right, I knew this guy was fast. All right, now I'm going to double count it because I got confirmation on it. So like with him, you kind of just leave it as it is.
I will say,
go ahead.
With a lot of these guys, we're seeing the 40s and we're like, wow, they blew off the radar. Some of them, they dropped game speed and 40 speed completely different, right? So when they put on the pads and the way they move, completely different than the guy that has no pads and is just a faster guy than them, right? So just keep that in mind when you're like, oh, I'm dropping this guy because of it. Go back and watch your tape because what they do on the field when the pads are on, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, it should match up to the tape. Like it should go hand in hand.
Next, Audric Estime, not a great day for him.
Perfect segue here because I didn't love his tape. He flunked. This guy is off my board. I don't want anything to do with him. Sure, he's a big guy. He's powerful, but this is confirmation bias for me. I'm triple counting this one. Audric Estime, I'm done.
So don't double count stats, but triple count stats is what he just said.
That's what you take away. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we knew he wasn't fast. I don't think anybody would have argued he's fast, but he has quick feet, so he kind of has that going for him, and he's okay. Like, I don't like this day is kind of what I expected from him. Seeing the broad and the vertical tells me like, hey, he's got a little quickness to him, so that's okay with it, and you can live with it. But yeah, he's a giant running back. Like you expect him to be slower. He's not gonna blow it away. He's not Braylon Allen where he has the high end speed like that. So. You kind of know this. He's going to be a day 3 pick. He'll get drafted to a team, and he'll have like a grinder down roll, back roll. And I think it'll be fun.
I mean, this is a solid. I just said don't match the combine like the 40s and stuff, but this was just yuck. 4.7, like Jesus. I mean, and the thing is, when we're watching this tape, we talked about like he does go a little slower, right? But he there like the footwork wasn't there to say there. Even if you can say he's patient, it's like, bro, but you're patient at the wrong times necessarily. So yeah, he's someone that dropped my board heavily. I mean, size was there, right? He looked pretty good in his size there. But man, that 4.7 definitely hurts you.
I know we have a mock draft to get to at some point. We're going to keep going through the running backs. I'm not sure how many we have left. And I think we'll split the show and maybe tomorrow come back for receiver and quarterback because a lot of their testing is still coming in. So we'll run through what's left of the running backs here. And then we'll move on to our mock draft. I think I just posted on Twitter. So if you guys want to join us for that to see where these rookies have moved up or down, do so in about 20 minutes. But for now, let's stick with the rookies here, the running backs. I expected George Halani to be faster. That was kind of the one thing he did well. He didn't do nearly as fast. It's kind of Ray Davis for someone who isn't huge. I expected better than 4.52. Did you guys notice anything here in the Boise State running back?
No, I think that's a fine speed for him. Like I'm not too worried about it. Like you run 4.52, like you can live with that. It's not going to kill you in the league, so it's okay.
But I agree. I think, Ray Davis, I was cool with that. I was like, I didn't expect him to be a burner. I did expect Hulaney to be a burner, so I was expecting like a 4.5, 4.6 maybe at the very least. But 4.52 to me that hurts. He's already one of those guys that you're probably lower on because he's from Boise State. So that's. Well, for these guys, you talk about these type of backs, like these guys going to the smart schools, not your Georgias, your Bamas, your Texas, Oregon, stuff like that. The combine matters to them. It matters more so than it did to a guy like Ray Davis who played in the SEC, right? You're coming from a G5 Boise State, where this was something that's like you gotta go out there and show out to raise your draft stock, So I think it does hurt him a little bit.
All right. I know we've got a draft coming up, so we're going to move through these a little quicker. We have about 10 or 12 left. He updates some of this. What's that?
The guy above. I know who that is.
He updates some of them. So if I go to a player that we've already done, let me know because he has duplicates. This one's not a duplicate. This one's a headstone, actually.
My boy.
This would be Jesse's guy, Oregon Bucky Irving, who was a 4.56. It's actually not as bad as I thought it was, considering how much of a how everyone wrote an obituary for him a few hours ago. But Jesse, why don't you tell us where Bucky Irving hurt you today?
Well, the biggest issue is the lack of draft capital was the concern with Bucky Irving because, like, you watch the tape, he's explosive, he does a lot of things great. But the fact when you come in and testing and you do this, like, this means you're getting pushed well down because you're a small back, you don't have the high end speed, you don't have the vertical, like, you don't have a lot of things teams are looking for, right? So this pushes you into the back end day 3 UDFA range, and then it's so hard to get on a roster in a roll. So I think Bucky's the biggest loser of the day of the running back position because this performance, like similar to Kyron Williams, like we're talking about a few years ago, absolutely killed Kyron Williams. It's going to kill Bucky because he's going to get just drop down boards. So, like, this is the worst part. Like,
what Jesse just said is that Bucky Irving is the next Kyron Williams. Everybody,
3 years, baby. RB1. Let's go.
But the best thing about him, go ahead, Jeremy.
I was just going to say, even if you wanted to try and hang your hat on some of the drills where he looked decent in catching the football, there's other guys who, had a good combine, like Dylan Lobby, more than a few guys who look just as good, if not better, catching the football, who are going to get the draft capital, at least over Irving, and, who profile better, at least after today.
Yeah.
The best thing about Irving, though, is he was tied for 4th in the split, when it came to the running backs. So his breakout is fast, right? But that, as Jesse said, his top end speed, like he doesn't necessarily burn out of anything like that. But when he gets the ball, the explosiveness is there, which is something that people saw in him, and he actually did translate that well.
Here's another guy who was one of the significant fallers. Washington, Dylan Johnson, 4.68, not great, not tiny, just no explosiveness, no speed, really. So,
yeah, I think that was always the question. This kind of like leads into what I thought about him coming in the league. Like, he just wasn't fast enough, and you had that concern, and it got verified. Like, it's like, all right, you can be a college producer, you can be slow. It's real hard in the NFL if you're slow like Dylan Johnson and not the biggest guy in the world to do that. So, yeah, I think he's basically lucky if he gets drafted at this point.
He was one of my sleepers, and I think right now you're just hitting the snooze button. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're just gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna stay asleep. So
yeah. He also dropped a lot of balls and fell down a ton. Like, it was just the worst performance that he could have turned in. And he did a great job turning in a terrible performance. So
he's right. Everybody was like the Mississippi State, like multiple catch season, everybody was hanging their hat on. It's like, all right, that's clearly out there.
Dropped a lot of balls and fell down. So he's Josh Reynolds. Moving on.
The benefit with like your Estime, your Dylan Johnson, and your Bucky Irvin, they still have their pro day, so they can still come out and just flip the script on everything. So you know, these are guys hey, watch out for their pro days now.
Very true. They're gonna have to, right?
Yeah. So cross your fingers.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Jordan, who is relatively far down my board. Didn't put up a whole lot of testing numbers, and the things he did do, he didn't do great. Anybody have anything to say before we move on? There's not a whole lot to see here.
No.
Same things. Just on tape, it looked good, but I mean, combine. This was a guy that needed it to rise his stock,
and he didn't.
And he didn't.
Lobby, another one who was very disappointing. There's not much grain here for a guy who's only 5'10-ish. Another guy in the 4.57. Just goes to show you that there's not a lot of high-end talent in this running back class. Not a lot of great scores coming up.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I'll say for Lobby is we knew he was a great pass catcher. He looked kind of the best out there in shorts, catching those balls. That's going to be his role. Can he pass protect? I don't know. Remains to be seen. So will he earn a true third down role? We don't know. But yeah, not the best from him.
Right. And he's not coming out of a small school. He's coming out of New Hampshire. That's like a school people do not care about. So it's even harder for him to get to the NFL. So yeah, not an ideal day for him.
The benefit of his is that Estime and Dylan Johnson look bad, and he looked relatively decent to them. So it's like when that happens, it's like, okay, you can move him up a little bit, but it's not much. I mean, is he still getting that capital? I don't know.
Marshawn Lloyd out of USC. I think he moved up. He might have passed Estime and Bucky for me. He's fast. He's a little small, not all that explosive, but he was pretty fast. 4.46 is not half bad. And anybody got thoughts here on Marshawn Lloyd?
Yeah, it matched the tape. When you watch him with the ball in his hands, the dude absolutely flies and he could burn. So you see it, and then you see what he did today, and you're like, yep, that checks out. Like, he's really good with the ball in his hands. He moves differently sometimes, and he's just like, it's nice. So you watch that, and you see this 40 he puts together, and you're like, all right, hand in hand. So yeah, like, it's a big day for Marshawn Lloyd.
Haven't gone through and updated my rankings at all. I want to wait for the combine to be completely finished before I did that. But I mean, Trey Benson and Marshawn Lloyd solidified my 1 and 2 with their combine performance.
Yeah, agreed.
I have Benson as my 1. I hadn't done my rankings yet. I don't know if I'm moving Lloyd up that high. He's definitely into my top 4. I have to, like I said, I know Allen didn't do anything. Did Brooks? No, Brooks didn't do anything either. Hey,
the ACL for Brooks. He hasn't.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, like, Lloyd is he has the pedigree as like one of the top running backs coming out from high school. He checks all the boxes, like a guy that's just really good with the ball in his hands as a rusher. So I think he solidified day 2 draft capital. Like, I think he's great to get there.
I think I'm just gonna have him as my 4. I don't know if I can get him over Allen and Brooks, even though they didn't do anything. But
yeah, moving Brooks' only thing is not even they did do it, it's just an injury. You know, you don't know how people come back from injuries like an ACL like that. So, you know, that's my only reason why he's down there. I think he's 4 for me, 4 or 5.
Okay, well, next we have Georgia running back Kendall Milton. Elite size, great explosiveness, not great speed, 4.62. This profiles as a thumper, third down goal line back if I ever seen one. I wasn't all that high on him now or before. I'm not much higher on him now. What do you guys think?
I mean, he had good elusive ratings and like breakaway run rates as like NFL player. But yeah, like I'm kind of with you. Like, the size is nice to see. It checks off a box because we don't have a lot of big backs coming into the league. So he has that going for him. And he puts together a solid day. So overall, like, I think he solidified the fact he's going to get drafted onto a team. Like, that's the thing you checked off today with him.
Yes.
I'll personally say I sleep on Milton, but I mean, it's a Georgia running back, right? So you gotta pay attention to them because they know how to produce some good running backs.
Does this guy have another first name? I forget. Does he go by a nickname? I don't think he actually goes by Keelan Robinson, but I forget what his real name is.
I don't know.
Couldn't tell you.
Anyways, wasn't particularly impressive. He's small. I mean, he was fast. 4.42 was awesome, but for a guy his size, he's kind of just a burner speed. I don't know. Anybody have thoughts on Keelan Robinson?
Yeah, like what's his role? That's what I'm more worried about the NFL. Like, he's fast, checks that off, obviously, but he's small. So like, where does he fit with an NFL team? And that's still a question I have coming away from this. Like, you got the speed, but like, where are you going to play in the NFL? So like, that's my main concern with him.
I need to go watch his tape. I haven't seen much on him, so I'll go watch it and regroup back to this and tell you my thoughts.
Yeah, but I don't think he didn't do anything to warrant going back and watching his tape if he gets drafted at all. I don't think it's going to be relevant.
And I guess teams wanted him to check out a wide receiver position too today. So like he might not even be a running back at the next level.
Well, Cody Schrader sucked.
Yeah.
He
Moving
was
on.
kind of late territory for me.
Yeah.
Late round
Unfortunate.
dart for me, and he's even worse now. Anybody still think there's a pathway to fantasy relevance for Schrader?
It hurts because I mean he came out the SEC and he looked good, right? He did performed good in the SEC, so you're expecting some kind of relevancy. But one of the guys where the combine hurt him because he was at Missouri, it wasn't Bama, Georgia, anything like that, even Florida, even. But I mean, it's just I think it hurt him a lot.
Yeah, there's a fun story of him. Like he was like the 8th running back when he got to school, and he purposely would go and work out before the strength coach get there, so he'd see his truck, and he established, and I think he led the SEC in rushing this year, if I'm not correct. But like he slowly made his way and like got to the combine, and that was a guy like no one expected to be there. So like congrats to him for getting there, but I don't think it's in the cards for him today.
Jaden Sheridan out of Monmouth, really fast, 4.46, small guy. This is pretty much the same thing we just said about not Schrader. Oh, it's Keelan Robinson. Really, really fast, pretty small. So I think he's probably above Cody Schrader at this point. Same size, except he's faster. Does anybody see a role for Sheridan?
I haven't even seen his tape, so I can't even.
No, I mean, noteworthy. He was invited to the combine out of Monmouth, right? But he didn't do anything spectacular today. And
he was fast.
Yeah, okay.
The speed helped him. Those are one of the guys that this is probably something all you have going for you, right? You being from a smaller school, so going out there and having 1, 2, 3, 4 top 5 speed out of the running back class. I mean, that's something noteworthy, but I don't think it's anything. He's not going to be a day 2 pick or anything.
Tyrone Tracy Jr. out of Purdue was interesting. A 4.49 at almost 6 feet tall, 5'11". So thoughts here?
Let me pull this comment up real quick. Yes, their wide receivers are testing right now. Our boy Roma Dunze just hit a 39-inch vertical, so beho. But they're gonna run later. So they'll run.
They have two groups of wide receivers.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Looking good for my boy Roma.
Sorry, back to Tracy. Did anybody have anything to say about Tracy here?
He looked decent. I mean, but there's a large tier of these guys, right? This isn't one of those performances, although he looked good overall, that I don't think anyone's going to really overreact to and massively move him up their boards. He was good. He's good in underwear. You might want to check the tape, but I don't think it's going to matter. We'll see what NFL teams think of him.
Kamani Vidal, another guy who's small but really fast. So like the 3rd or 4th guy in this profile here of he's really fast, but what role does he have at his size? Thoughts on Vidal? I know a lot of people liked him, but
no, I'd say he's more of a bowling ball type of back, where he's big and can go in between the tackles there and kind of cut it outside. And I think him coming out and having that speed of a 4.46 was actually good for him. I think that says he's going to be drafted. Coming out of Troy, he had the potential of being undrafted, but now I think it says he's going to be a day 3 pick. And someone I personally want on my radar because I don't expect he's going to be a guy where he's going to get some starts just based on how injuries, stuff like that play out. So you're just going to have to start him at the right weeks. He's not going to be an every down starter though, an every week starter. So
yeah. Like we were talking about earlier, Dylan Lave, like you have to show out in this day. This is what Kamani Vidal did, going at a smaller school, like making a name for himself. And he already had a little hype surrounding him. People knew his name and like what he did. So I think he for sure got himself drafted at the very least.
Yeah, agree.
Michael Wiley, not a whole lot to see here.
Not the best
Average all around. Anybody got anything to say about Wiley? He was 4.56 is all right. Decent size. Like literally the screen is all yellow except for his vert.
It's kind of what we thought of him as a prospect coming out. Like he's solid. He does some things, and he had that type of day.
Jalen Wright, I didn't know I could be disappointed by a 4.44, but I was. I thought he.
So was he.
No. Didn't he run a second time because I could
4.38.
Okay, I was going to say that's not up to date because he must have updated it later because I remember them saying, "Oh, I thought he'd run sub 4.4," and then he goes, "Oh, it's a 4.38 right on call." So you're right, this one's not up to date. He did run 4.38, so I'm not as disappointed. I think he's going to be a riser for me. 5'10", 4.38. We kind of knew he was good. So
Also, the official time, the times that we get when they list them, they're not official. They do come back and they change the times. So you'll see times that are different because it's not official. So it might be that might be his official number. I don't know.
Yeah.
The U it means unofficial. So.
And here's the thing, and see if you can find it real quick while I'm talking about it. But NFL Network posted a graphic about the 40 that said, it was like the first 5 yards of the 40. So basically the burst off the line. And he was the fastest in the last 2 years, faster than Achane, faster than Gibbs. Right. So I think that one graphic alone, and we'll find it later or whatever, but that one graphic alone is just going to boost his stock because everyone's going to be like, he's faster than Achane, he's faster than Gibbs. That's not what the graphic is saying, but at least he had the burst there. You like to see that. But I think he's probably going to be overhyped for my taste, especially if he's going in the back end of the first round of rookie drafts. So
yeah, he runs out of control. It's that like the speed is not uncontrolled, and that's kind of wrong. But yeah, to your point, it was at 5 yards. The fastest speed, it was 15.18 miles per hour. The fastest of the last two classes. Like he can burn. He can absolutely burn.
Anybody taking him over Estime and Irving?
Over Estime for sure.
Irving, yeah. If he gets the draft,
him over both.
To get it. Yes, I think so too. Like
easily.
I'm really not that interested in him. Like he has holes in his game, but like he offers size and speed. So like he's very much there. So you make the case somebody will buy him.
I can't say over Irving. I have to see both of them on the pro day. Like I have to see him repeat, and I want to see Irving go out there and do better than what he did at the combine on their pro day before I say Wright over Irving.
I think Wright is a top 8 guy. He might be RB6.
Yeah.
Number 2 out of 1,745 running backs, Isaac Garonado out of Louisville, the big winner of the day. This scorecard is entirely green. 4.33 at 6'2", this guy came out of nowhere. He's going to be, I guarantee you that in the draft we're about to do, if we ever finish this, he's going to be taken today.
Who?
Isaac Garonado.
I know that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, who? Exactly when I saw his name, it's like, so, someone that was did not watch his tape. So, but hey, you popped off, and now it's like, all right, I got to go do some research, which is great. This is what you add him
to our prospect profiles.
Absolutely, you will.
Yeah. And that's what's great about this, a guy like him, it's like, okay, you're making me go out and do research on you because of you came out and performed, whereas if he didn't, then it's like, all right, there's no, we don't talk about you. But now it's like, okay, we need to, get some news on you.
Yeah, NFLcombine.com has him at 6.15 grade, which is a backup with the potential to be a starter. So, like, they were already a little high on him. I'm with you guys. I don't know, like, much about him at all, so I can't really speak to it. But, like, he's on the NFL's radar, obviously. So, like, he had the ideal day of anyone you could ever have. Like, this is premier, like, day one type stuff.
It's sad because when I was watching Louisville, I was seeing everything Jamari Trask. That was one of my guys coming in, and it's like, okay, now I actually got to go look at the running back game now. So
yeah, it's like it's weird he didn't pop off, right? Like he's this athletic and you didn't notice him. That is like the problem we have with him. I think he's probably going to be more of the bait that people will take, but you never know. Like the speed and size is there, and it's hard to get that in the NFL.
Look at it this way: his day was so good. He's the first person all week long that I've added to our sheet for rookie profiles. I don't think there's anyone else. I didn't add the tight end. We already had Theo Johnson. Was there anyone else you think who rose enough from the obscure to actually warrant it? I think he's the first.
There might be a wide receiver, but I have to go back and check. I can't remember.
Oh, no. Okay. I haven't done the wide receivers and quarterbacks. I just been for the sake of tight end and running back because we're going to end this show pretty soon.
Hartman with his hair. Came out looking good.
Shut up about the
he's going to play a quarterback in a movie at one point in his life.
That is the last one of his cards, so we can wrap it up there and get you guys over into your mock draft. So if you'd like to stick around not stick around, you're gonna have to pick the other stream. We are going to call it a day here and load up into a 4-round rookie superflex draft, which will be going right after this. So that was the recap. We ended up only doing running back, tight end. I might try and jump back on later to do quarterback and wide receiver, depending on how long this shit show goes. It went forever the other day. If not, we'll do it the next day. We'll round that up. For Aaron, Jeremy, SC, and Jesse, thank you all for tuning into the Fantasy Football Universe. Running back, tight end, combine recap. Stay tuned. Like I said, we're going to do a 4-round rookie draft in about 5 minutes. Thanks, everyone. Take care.